Alright guys, so we're going to look at Yoda Ezra Rookie Pilot, and that's my photo for articles. Um, so let's go look at the deck. We're gonna more or less talk about card choices. Try to make it easier for those of you that kind of want to adjust stuff. Uh, so we've got two friends in little places and two scruffy looking nerf herders, and well, I forgot. There's actually only one currently in the current updated one. So we only have three hand peak cards. And we have buttloads of what I would call a removal. And I call caution removal as well, just because I tend to only caution once a guy's taken damage, and then they have to decide at that point whether they want to continue or not. We got the vehicle package. More quote-unquote mitigation. DH goes with the vehicles. One holdout. One Z95. Now R2D2 is a little weird because R2D2 is really just like a... It's kind of like an additional Yoda die for us to an extent. And then we've got ramp. So more or less the thing here is you'll notice there are tons and tons of one-ofs. So we'll go through the vehicles first because that one's a bit easier to more or less discern. So now the thing is that you have Resistance Bomber as a kind of catch-22. Hit anything, you don't care. So now a lot of time you guys will see me, I'm more or less looking to just bash people to pieces, and I want to kill specific guys. But now Resistance Bomber is one of those weird ones because there's very specific matchups where, so like all the middle matches, sometimes focusing on one guy makes it a little harder because now they're going to have the Force Illusion on the the quote unquote correct guy. Um, you're going to have to like bust through more shields. They know kind of who to defend. Now the thing is with Bomber and Y Wings, they kind of have to decide shit. What's the intent here? So like let's say you six somebody round one and then you do three on a resistance, it's just gonna go on the other guy. So like that doesn't really feel as great. But if you kind of think, well, if I six this one guy and then I six him again, the Resistance Bomber 3 becomes direct damage because there's only one guy left. So even though it's a little inefficient there, the big parts is when you don't actually get damage in. So let's say you round one decided to steal their resources because they left them there and they were like, well, they dared you to steal the resources to keep them off of removal. So you took it and you kind of just ramp out that round one. Potentially just stay alive a bit better. But you drop like a resistance or a Y wing, and now you hit them for 3 or 4. So the average expectation is that providing they don't have like a single guy, like let's say that's Vader and a Tusken Raider, or Sabine Ezra, that the damage is more or less going to be split. So they're going to put 2 on the target they don't expect you to kill, and 1 on the main target. For Y wings, most likely 2 and 2. Even if it's let's say against Ezra, when you get the 3 on Ezra, now you have 4 to kill. Like it kind of makes sense a lot of those times to just take the guy off the table and the 2 dice go with it. And like you might get the same versus opposing vehicle decks, where you do the 3 and they might just put the 3 on Ayla, or like 2 Ayla, 1 Rose, 2 Ayla, 1 Ezra, something like that, because they kind of don't expect you to go and kill that character. And the thing is that we have no problem kind of making that designation where we want that guy dead, especially when we go next round and we do it a second time. So now they took 3 already, they're taking 3 again. It's like, how are you going to split it? So they'll probably go 3 and 3. But if our leftover dice can get the 7 or 8 damage direct to kill the one guy off the table, life becomes much easier. It also makes it hard for them to do anything preemptively, like Force Illusion, which is pretty much run in almost every deck. Caution also becomes much worse there because they still don't know who you're going to hit. If they caution prior to resolving a resistance or a Y-Wing, then stuff changes a bit. But even then, they may not take all 3 damage to the caution shield. They might take 1, probably 2, unless they think you're actually going for that guy, and then they're splitting it up elsewhere, and then you kind of just ignore that guy. So like those are very relevant things. There's a lot of time where just having extra damage instead of specifically targeted damage can go a long way. because realistically we do have to kill whatever other character. So if we went after a Seven Sister and now he starts loading up Bobo, we can't exactly switch targets, um, unless we hit just 10 damage, 11 damage all at once and just take the guy off the table. So this adds up over the course of a game, and you got to understand that we're playing a game where you have to kill all of the characters. These dice don't go anywhere, so for the most part, just getting extra damage is pertinent to the plan. If you kind of think of the other vehicle decks, they don't get to directly kill a guy, so they're playing their total health pool versus yours, and for the most part, they don't get to remove your dice off the table. And like we could play a similar method, or like a similar way where we're getting in 4, and then three in from resistance, and now we'll just do 4 to the other guy to put him at 7 because maybe that first guy has an illusion. So now that second guy's looking at 3 to die, and it's like, oh shit, how are we going to do this? So then you resistance 3 to somebody, and then they have to decide whether to put more on that guy, to put some through the illusion, to put to crack the illusion for 3, and then now you're back open for being able to hit 6 direct and kill that guy. So like these things kind of go back and forth, and that's where resistance and Y-wing kind of come in. They're amazing through wars of attrition. So just bear in mind, a lot of time you want to kind of think my health versus their health. You start with 24. If you get shields, you started with 26 or 24 and 2 shields. And then most of the time they're going to have in that like 20 range. Sabine Ezra only has 18, so even hitting the 3s like there, it just adds up. So you take Ezra off the table. Now you're going to be able to like choke them more easily. They can't do garbage shoots. Loth cats are going to be much harder to use. You get to shut down a lot of stuff. They're going to be much faster because they only have that one character now. But, they got to go through rerolls and your removal and blah, blah, blah. So, like, these things do add up. And I'm not actively saying go kill Ezra first. But keep all this crap in mind. And now, for Resistance Bomber and Y-Wing, we have essentially 3 usable damage sides on each. And then 2 sets of 2 Disrupt. 2 Disrupt helped us go a long way to just, reducing or just pretty much eating all the resources for the round. The 6 for 2 is much harder to use early on, but the expectation is let's say we drop a resistance round 1, we're going to hit for 3. Round 2, we might actually just try to hit for 6, depending on what's going on. Like, your overall expectation is let's say round 2 you cast a T-47 airspeeder, and you use it for 2, and the next round you use it for 2 again. Your 2 resources came up to 4 damage. The 2 resources on the resistance bomber immediately going for the 6 would have gotten you that 3 damage immediately, which could go towards killing a guy. So if you killed the guy of the round earlier because of it, like it's things that matter. So just keep that in mind. Y-Wing and Ezra have very good repertoire because Ezra could just steal the resource, and then Y-Wing will do 1 extra damage, or Y-Wing special will do 1 extra damage, which may be more important than getting your opponent paid a resource into Y-Wing, and now you dealt, let's say, 3 with it, but then you got 2 from Ezra. So you got 5 total there, whereas if you stole the resource, you gained a resource and dealt 4, and there's a lot of times where that 1 resource for you goes much further than a single damage. So keep that in mind. And now Fang Fighter and Airspeed are roughly the same, 2-3 versus 2-2, but a lower cost, and they switch out the special for the resource. Like, sure, there's an ambush or whatever, but you're roughly looking at both of these as this about the same. Obviously, since you can switch your damage up all the time, you can actually just show max on there for the Fang for the 3, and get in sets of 5, 6, 7, or pretty much 5, 7, because 6 is just another single one somewhere. And then DH is kind of once again like another version of these. You've got 1, 2 for a resource, and then you've got the +2, so it actually just has more damage sides. So we're looking at 3 of the 5 of these have 50% for damage. And then hold out another 50%, Z95 another 50%. And both of these are roughly the same. I cut one of the Scruffies for now. I do miss it quite often, but against specific, more aggressive matchups, you don't really necessarily have time to Scruffy. So if you don't have time to Scruffy, it's sometimes better just having the additional die. But these are about equivalent to me. One's more rally aid proficient. The other one can eat our DH or Force Illusion if things changed or got worse, or we just kind of need to jam our upgrade and do whatever for the action economy. So just kind of keep that in mind. You really don't necessarily want to focus immediately, like just re-rolling for damage on these. If you pitch, if we went into each round assuming we're gonna reroll twice, then you have high expectations to show damage on any of these cards. Like Airspeeder rolls in, rerolls with a Rookie Pilot. We're at 55% to hit. You're at 75% to hit on Y-Wing or Resistance, assuming you can resolve that 6. And then same thing, 75% on Z95. So like Rookie Pilot's one reroll goes a long way for the weaker vehicles. So Philpin, Scruffy, they're primarily there for clearing the way so you can get your big damage sets in. Rally 8 is for ramping. It's not just for ramping vehicles because you can get, your holdout for 1 cheaper, your DH. The bigger ones is that since we only have, 4 cards in deck that cost 0, this can cast, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 because we assume the other one, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. You can cast 19 of the cards in the deck for free. The only ones that can't are obviously Holdout, the 6 vehicles here that would cost 1, and then the other 4 cards. So 11, yeah. So 19 and 11. So Rally 8 is just pretty much a 1 cost right away. The expectation is to get 1 that round, and get 1 each round going further like it binds all things. But when we get vehicles off of it, we're getting 2, and realistically that's just completely broken. So yeah. So now, removal-wise, flank and pin down are your key ones. Pin down starts off round 1 pretty terrible, and it comes into fruition right after. A lot of time you're looking to pretty much kind of just stop 2 damage. You would really hope to stop 3 with it, but if you're seeing a bunch of 3s, it's already scary. But these are very good at gumming up plans, and just trading 1 resource and a card from your hand for 2 damage can often be very good. Just don't get stuck on you needing to stop damage. Force Illusion will do similar, except at that point you're kind of expecting to stop 3 damage or prevent people from putting in a base and a modifier into your guy. So like Force Illusion can often either stop 3 damage or stop 2 dice worth, depending on what's going on. A 1 and a +2 is going to get Force Illusion. So either some people will switch targets and do different things. Caution is a little weird. So the expectation is if we have max damage, we may not cast a Caution, but trading our 2 damage and a card from hand for 3 life is essentially plus EV. So a lot of time we'll have a leftover die, but let's say Ezra's the main target. The question ends up becoming, let's say this was a Duggan that only went on 1 guy and didn't require the battlefield, and it costs 1. Would you cast it? So like, if we give up a Yoda die that's not showing a special or 2 focus, then assuming we would have already had a 2 focus or a special on the other one, when you Yoda chain, you would have only gained half of that die, which would have been a resource, a shield, pretty much a resource or a shield, because if you use the other one to go resource fix this die and then resource fix another die, that first die could have just went resource fix. So you only gained 1 resource out of there. So you would have expected to gain a resource, flipping an opponent's die, or a shield. In the situation where you already have a 2 focus on Yoda, then you're looking to you can count that extra focus, because you can actually go resource, fix it to a 2 focus, and then the next action 2 focus, so you'll have gained +1 focus, but you'll have only gained half of the die. So at that point you're like, alright, well, cautioning off of it doesn't feel as bad, because maybe you don't have another reroll in hand. So then at that point it was only worth 1 resource. 1 resource for 3 shields, and your card seems pretty great. So don't feel too bad there. A lot of time you're either giving up a Rookie Pilot that may not even have had a 2 for that, or just think of it like this is a 0 cost defensive stance if Rookie Pilot had a shield, or once again that Duggan if Rookie Pilot was showing the resource. So you gotta view this card a little differently than most people do. We've got Field Medic. If it's another line of the same as these, it's 1 for 2. These have a bit more flexibility removal-wise, but Field Medic can get around backup muscles, anything else that would like sneak or move damage in, or just like if you have an illusion, so then like someone puts the 3 in, and or 3 or 4 in, and then they're like, all right, well I got this 2 in, he'll die next round. Now you Field Medic. They're like, shit. The other thing is that Illusion and Field Medic are much better end of round things with Rally Aid, because if you didn't have the vehicle, or maybe you had to cast it earlier or something, like it, you can cast those off of Rally Aid regardless of what the opponent's doing and be okay. Rally Aid obviously needs the damage down, and Force Illusion you still want damage on a guy. Easy picking is just amazing. We would have 2 of if Ezra didn't have fucking 7 health. If Ezra had like 8 or 9 health, this would be an auto 2. And then Overconfidence is kind of our like pseudo anti, opponent rolled real good against our deck more frequently, often than not, which could be a reason to run a second one. They will kind of just keep re-rolling to fix their damage, going, well, if they know our removal, we don't have tons of garbage shoots, then they could just keep re-rolling. So Overconfidence is very good for going, all right, well, you have 4 or 5 damage showing. I'm just going to re-roll both of them. One of them's auto gone, and then I can just kind of hope you don't hit that, 30, 40, 55% to have the other 2 damage there. But worst case scenario, I still got rid of one of them. It's very, very good versus Yodas, which a lot of people are playing. So you could potentially see this, being run in mirrors. If you're playing more mirrors, you might want a second one. We've recently included Garbage Shoot for a similar reason to cautioning, the rookie pilot die. So if the opponent has 4 or 5 damage, stopping 4 or 5 damage with the Garbage Shoot and tapping our rookie pilot goes a long way. Or your Ezra is about to die, he's got 5 health, they roll in like 4 damage, you'll just move on and tap your Ezra to stop the 4, because maybe they hit, another 1 or 2 that's going to actually kill the Ezra. So then you're giving up your dead guy's dice, which you couldn't use anyways, to stop 4 or 5 damage, and like that's perfectly fine. And this does cause random blowouts, so giving up your rookie pilot pretty much at any point, as long as he doesn't have a DH, goes a long way. And then it's one of the other reasons to potentially cut the holdout, since we may want to give up our guy and our dice. You don't kind of want additional upgrades that mean you lost more dice. Like giving up a rookie pilot die to stop 4 damage is great. Giving up 2 Yoda dice is really, really fucking hard. Giving up 2 Ezra, once again, hard, but much more, feasible if he's the one being attacked. So, like, more or less, that's the entire breakdown of the deck. The Z95 was another cheap kind of Rally Aid option that operated similar to our little guns. It has 3 damage sides. It acted like Fang Fighter as far as getting to the 3, because there's a lot of situations where we can't just go straight even. Like, someone could add 1 shield, and then now we've had to use an additional die because we had, T-47 and pistol, but they have 5 health. So now we have to use, another 1. We don't really have 1, so we gave up 2 damage for it. Whereas if we had the Fang or the Z95, we can go, all right, 3 and 2, that's 5. Screw whatever you were attempting to do. It helps immensely for changing out the damage sets. It sucks a bit that we don't have the holdout, but cutting it could make sense. If we find that we want the Scruffy, the holdout, or the second holdout becomes the second Scruffy. If we find that we're kind of okay, we want more damage, we could actually just flip this back into a Z95. The Z95 does hit relatively hard. We could always just make it a 1 if we're not willing to pay the resource for the extra 2 damage. But that's the more or less the breakdown on the deck. Just keep in mind that versus a lot of mid decks, the wirings and resistances add up, especially if things aren't going too well for you. When things are going well, like, the rest doesn't matter, because you're gonna spike a guy down, and having resistance is fine. In opening mulligans, you're probably going to want kind of almost whatever you keep. So let's put this here. So let's say we draw this. Pre-mull, the cards I would consider keeping here are just DH and resistance. The reasoning for this is I start with 2. I would kind of expect Yoda to get me to 4. So keeping the resistance isn't a huge issue. If you think you just want better cards, you get rid of the resistance, but the DH stays no matter what. You really don't need most of the removal. The pin down requires the vehicle, so you can't do it, and you really don't want a round 1 R2-D2. It does give you consistency, but it's kind of a waste of 1, because you're really hoping to get extra damage. So like that's why I would tend to keep the resistance there, because I don't feel as bad. Plus, if you end up starting with your battlefield because they picked it, then that's 2 and 1, and you're okay with that as well. So I would keep it. But what we'll do is we'll shuffle up, draw 3, and then I'll shuffle it. I'll kind of shuffle it in and draw that last one. Yeah. So like we got back here, we got replacements, but let's say this was back in the deck, and I know the math is not the same. But yeah, so like this would have been essentially much more kosher for us. But if we had missed on this Y-Wing, we wouldn't feel too great because that stupid R2-D2 came back. So like this would be perfect. We, roll out Ezra, okay, see what's going on. Potentially DH the Yoda. If we think people are going to go after Yoda, then maybe we save this for Rookie Pilot. But you could DH, drop it on the Yoda. So now if we get to 3 resources at some point, then we get the Y-Wing, and we have access to caution or picking, depending on what's going on. If we end up picking 2 dice, we might end up doing R2-D2, and then like caution the Rookie Pilot, and get maybe 5-6 damage in, depending on what's happening. But pretty much like you'd like to start with the caution, you'd like to start with the DH. Removal is real good, but you don't necessarily need it. So this one, I ditch that. I always tend to keep the easy picking at the beginning. So I don't mind keeping these 3. The caution will help save our Ezra or Yoda, depending on who they're attacking. The easy picking will stop, blow out things, and we kept a vehicle because it's a vehicle. And like, yeah, so the Scruffy is bad here, and so is the pin down, but we're content with the others, so these will probably just go to rerolls, and hopefully we get like 9 damage here. If things are going real good, like when we're rolling out, we could Scruffy to see what their hand is to make sure we can clear the way for the Z95. But if not, we don't stress it too much. We might just try to steal. This one is pretty much the nutter butter. We don't care about the field medic, so we kind of want to get more from this. We could ditch the illusion, but I would like keeping it here just because we have no other removal. So if we Filp, see what's going on. Yeah, so like this would be the nutter butter. If we start in our battlefield, you can jam the T-47 for 1. Kind of like Filp, see what's going on. Roll out Ezra, roll out Yoda. If Yoda hit the special, then pretty much we can rally aid, and we know for a fact we're good to go that we can like jam down Y-Wing and stuff. So like rally aid sets up a lot of our great hands, and that's kind of why I tend to not keep too many cards, but I'll keep all the stuff that's real good. It's like this again. For me to keep overconfidence, I would have to be playing against specific decks that have kind of really scary subsets of different dice. So like I guess if I was playing against Stairs, I think I would still keep the easy picking over it, but I could against like a Yoda deck, I might keep the overconfidence with the easy picking, just because if they hit both specials, they're getting blown out. But the overconfidence would answer Yoda's dice if he hits like special +1 of whatever. Caution because it keeps our Ezra alive. Yeah, so like Scruffy is really for later game. But the goal here is to drop a Y-Wing and then easy pick or caution. Alright, similar type thing. DH is great, Filp is great, we've got the 1 piece of removal. We don't need the R2-D2 and the Scruffy. We could keep R2-D2. Like, so the reason I keep getting rid of R2-D2 is because I don't need it right away. I'd rather try to find the vehicle. And, like, the vehicle's huge for me. So, like, even the Rally Aid here is ginormous, because you Filp, okay, cool, Rally Aid, alright, Ezra. You could Yoda, see what's going on. If anything comes down removal-wise, we could just Rally Aid, and then see if we hit the removal. Unless it's, like, we had to cast it. Like, he hit 2 2s, I might overconfidence there, instead of Rally Aiding. But I'd rather just Rally Aid first to see what ends up happening. Because if I hit the flank, I'm probably okay with it. I hit overconfidence, probably still okay with it. Maybe not super happy, but I could also just jam the DH and roll, and then Rally Aid one of the pieces of removal after, because then I just know I have both pieces. We do not care about the Z95 here. We want this. So the question here ends up being, do we keep Z95 because it's a good second vehicle to have, or do we throw it back trying to get Rally 8 or something like a DH. So, like, depending on what you're playing against, you could kind of figure out what's going on. If you're playing against a deck where you'd probably want to start your battlefield, then you would probably just keep it because you would want to jam the T47 first, and get like the rerolls out of it. And then if you still have money left over, you can Z95. But we'll draw one there, and just for the sake of it, see what it is. Because like we do want Philp or Rally Aid. Yeah, get the Rally Aid, but now you like how you do stuff is real questionable because you'd have to kind of Rally Aid T47 as your last card, which isn't too hard, but you can't caution until pretty much your rookie pilot's tapped out. Like this, I would keep the entire fucking hand and be like, jackpot, bitch. So we would Philp. If we're cleared the way, we would probably activate Yoda first to see what's going on. Because if Yoda hits the special or the focus, you know you're in the clear. So now you could be like, hold out, roll out Ezra. Okay, cool. You know, get whatever piece of money, jam the Rally Aid, roll out rookie because like the holdout's already down. Caution off of it, Rally Aid into T47, use Yoda's focus or whatever's going on. Because you might have two focused earlier, but depending on whether you hit money or not, you could have just like specialed and then fixed the other Yoda to like a special, or actually just to a two focus, depending on what Ezra and rookie pilots were hitting. Probably two focus if you thought you'd hit poop, because we don't want to reroll at all here. This whole hand is pretty much garbage. You could keep a flank if you felt you wanted to do it, but we have so much removal, I expect to get one of them back, and I'd rather have caution or force illusion. So this hand's a little dumpy. You get the Philp, you get the jam down a DH. You can roll out, kind of see what's going on, and then you'll get one of these. Most likely, you probably go with like the Fang Fighter. Depending on what Yoda has resource-wise, you may go Z95 because you won't get if Ezra doesn't hit money and you don't get to steal money, you can't jam either of these down without while having Yoda special up. Whereas the Headhunter you could, because you could just get one resource, jam it down, roll out, do stuff, use Yoda's other die to fix stuff. Doesn't feel amazing, but doable. Man, this is rough too. I tend to keep a vehicle if I get one. I could have kept the overconfidence there, but I just hate doing that at times. So like this hand's much rougher. Depending on whether we need a burst down or just kind of want to get whatever we can get, we may just decide to try to steal resources or Yoda into resource and resistance and like kind of pitch our hand. It's all based on what you're getting. This hand is also pretty tough. I think I'd rather have the Y-Wing here. You could keep holdout, flank, and Y-Wing and kind of play accordingly. I just think in most games I've decided that Y-Wing is just an nutter butter card, so I want to like try to get that down. So yeah, like we get a caution, we try to speed into the Y-Wing, and we have two rerolls. Like any of your rallied hands are going to be nuts, pretty much, and the same with like DH type hands. So like this hand can be completely nuts for you. The resistance obviously goes back. The question here is whether to keep holdout or Y-Wing. We can't. Pretty much you can't cast Y-Wing and holdout. So like if you get rid of those, like you don't feel bad. Okay, so like that one's interesting. You might just try to ramp real hard. So like Ezra into money, Yoda with DH or holdout into more money, and try to get down like T47 or DH or something, or and DH or something. But Phillips are good for clearing the way. So I'd probably do that. As you can see, caution is my preferred keep in my original opening. And like this is real good. Your expectation is probably to try to cast these two. But that's kind of why the holdout isn't super necessary. But we need it for the extra, ability to find extra dice. Um, Z95 doesn't feel as bad. Or Z95 doesn't feel that bad, but it's not always happy times. If you start on your battlefield, this could actually end up being very good, though, because you can go T47, still have one left, do stuff, and then jam a holdout, or run into a garbage chute if you wanted, but you might keep the garbage chute to the next round. So, like, you might T47, Yoda, and Ezra, or Ezra, see what happens. Like, if you get a money, you can hold out Yoda, do stuff, caution, over, hit for, like, 4. Actually, probably 5. You won't be able to caution and shoot there. So, like, the caution might be better because you kind of want to get hit first and then caution away. So, for this, I would keep both T47s. May consider the illusion depending on what's going on. If it's like versus Sabine, you keep illusion like every time. Yeah. But your deck doesn't have a bunch of different stuff or a bunch of stuff you're looking for, so you just kind of play it by ear. For that, you could keep the flank. It's kind of just based on like whether you think you're going to cast it or not. I YOLO a lot. If I think people will be able to kill Ezra round 1, I'll keep a flank. Yeah, so like this is real solid. Probably Philp, see what's going on. Jam, hold out on Ezra, roll out Yoda. Because if you roll out Yoda and hit the special, you could then set up to be able to still flank. Then like hold out Ezra, roll out, do shit. But play the games, figure out how it goes, go from there. Look at my crappy art. Yeah, crappy paint. Should probably clean this up. Whatevs, don't care. Deuces.